Our focus today is on the really uncompromising urban monochromes of the contemporary Japanese photographer Osamu Kanemura. His intense, high-density frames, what some people call his documentation of urban excess. It forces us to ask a crucial question about artistic intent. Is Kanemura's unique visual language primarily a philosophical critique of the modern city, or is it fundamentally a technical and aesthetic challenge to traditional norms of composition? My position is that his work is really driven by a profound underlying critique of the city as a system operating independently of human welfare.
And I agree that critique is certainly a consequence of his vision. I'm going to argue that the core innovation is actually in the technical and aesthetic realm. For me, Kanemura's mission was to embrace a kind of visual cacophony, document sheer informational density, and in doing so, really challenge the necessity of compositional balance and even the traditional photographic subject itself.
I see that, and I understand the emphasis on his groundbreaking aesthetic, but we have to look at the philosophy that necessitates it. Kanemura, he deliberately frames the city as a system out of control. You see it in the crushing density and, critically, in the absence of human subjects. Both are clear visual evidence supporting his view that the modern megalopolis is a self-generating sprawl, not something built for humans, as he says, but rather something that grows independent of human intent. The monochrome choice isn't just an aesthetic flourish, it strips away the surface color that might sentimentalize this chaos, forcing us to confront the mechanical underlying system.
Okay, but the problem with prioritizing the philosophy is that it treats the aesthetics as, merely proof for the argument. I would argue the aesthetics are the primary revolutionary act. Kanemura's core innovation is his rejection of the decisive moment, that classical Cartier-Bresson idea that an image has to capture some peak emotional or structural climax. Kanemura values accumulation over climax. His photos document reality as an overwhelming flood of information, an overlapping mess of structures where nothing takes precedence. And the monochrome is purely functional in that context. It ensures the viewer has to engage with sheer density, not the distraction of color. That, to me, is a revolution in how we even define a compelling photograph. And let's get into the mechanics here, because they support this. He uses medium format cameras, specifically the Plobel Makina 67. Now, if the goal was simply philosophical commentary, a 35mm camera could probably suffice. But he chose a system designed to capture a staggering volume of information, one that allows for monumental prints. The technical quality ensures that, every cable, every sign, and every brick is rendered with equal intensity. This fidelity isn't just a happy accident, it's absolutely essential to achieving that visual saturation, where the viewer feels physically overwhelmed by the scale of the documentation.
Sure, the technical prowess is undeniable. But focusing only on the camera choice, I think, overlooks the purpose of that detail. Why go to such exhaustive technical lengths just to document urban clutter? The high detail is the means to make the philosophical statement visceral. When your eye has no central place to rest, when the information saturation is so complete, it creates a palpable sense of claustrophobia, of anxiety. The technical mastery is what enables the realization of the city as the self-proliferating machine that just dwarfs human control. If it were purely an exercise in aesthetic density, why ground it so firmly in recognizable, anxious urban environments instead of, say, abstract geometric patterns? And, critics consistently point out that his work reflects a system out of control. This collective interpretation, it demonstrates that the images function powerfully as social commentary. If the intent were only compositional, the reading would be structural. But the persistent response is one of cultural and urban critique.
That's a compelling point about the reception, but I'd reframe it. I'd suggest that documenting an overlapping mess of structures that are devoid of a central focal point is simply a rigorous artistic response to the observed reality of post-war Japanese urban sprawl. Kanemura challenged the assumption that an image requires a clear subject. He forced us to consider that the sheer volume of material reality, all those overlapping signs, the cables, the architecture, that is the subject. So the absence of the human element isn't a statement on displacement, but rather an aesthetic choice to challenge traditional photographic narrative.
In the end, it's clear the same elements, the exhaustive detail, the monochrome palette, the focus on urban proliferation, can and do serve two masters. For me, they form a sustained, incredibly dense indictment against unchecked architectural and systemic growth.
And for me, they represent a groundbreaking documentation of visual reality, one that prioritizes informational saturation over conventional composition. Kanemura's work, I think, profoundly illuminates the complexity in trying to separate artistic intent from a viewer's observation.